Hare Krishna. Share karo. Welcome to Yoga Sutras chapter 1. So today I had a few people requesting we want to know about the Yoga Sutras. So I was all excited because I was working on my next book, and the Yoga Sutras are a very, very, very important part of understanding the philosophy of yoga. The Yoga Sutras, what is it all about? It gives us the whole philosophy of yoga. It's more like a self help book, where it's explained what to do and what not to do in terms of yoga. What is the goal of yoga? What is the means of achieving this goal? And what are the stages? What are the powers? What are the benefits? All this is clearly explained in the Yoga Sutras. It is divided into four chapters. So the Yoga Sutras are divided into four chapters. The first chapter that we are going to discuss today, a synopsis of the first chapter that we are going to discuss today, it's called the Samadhi Pada, or the meditational practice. The second chapter is called as Sadhana Pada. Sadhana means the practice. What is the practice of yoga? The third chapter is Vibhuti Pada. So the first chapter is setting you the goals. The second chapter is giving you the practices. And the third chapter is giving you the powers, the strength. The strength. What benefits will you get? But there are two benefits. So the third chapter talks about the material benefits. The talks about the spiritual benefits, that is liberation. So the goal, why this practice is important for the human being, because yoga is meant for the human being, basically. What are the practices that we need to do? How do we need to practice them? Benefits of those practice, the material benefits and the spiritual benefits. Why material benefits and why spiritual benefits? Because there are two types of practitioners. Some practice yoga for some material benefit. Oh, I get good health, I get good this, good bowel movement, which is all a good part of why we practice yoga. But there is much more that you can achieve with the practice of yoga, and that is the spiritual benefits. That is the spiritual benefits. So today, we will talk about the goal of yoga. So there are almost 50 sutras. So they are called sutras, the Yoga Sutras. So the fourth chapter contain about 196 sutras, about 200, sutras. So what is this sutra? Sutra means if I crunch a whole book into one line, that is a sutra. If I crunch a book into one line, then that is called as sutra. So what this sutra does, it expands. It expands into a bigger meaning. There is one small word, but it can give you a host of meaning, a very wonderful host of meanings. So a sutra is like a code. It's like a code, and you have to decode it. So that's why one should study the Yoga Sutras from a guru. Krishnamacharya, the founder of Ashtanga Yoga, the modern day Ashtanga Yoga, the father of modern day Ashtanga Yoga, he had a dream in which he met Natha Muni. So Natha Muni is the actual propounder. He was a Sri Vaishnava. He's a worshipper of Lord Vishnu. So Natha Muni came in his dream and he explained the book called Yoga Korunta. So the Ashtanga Yoga practice is based on that book and it was revealed. So similarly, these Yoga Sutras are very mysterious. So that's why we need to hear them, because merely reading them is very, very difficult. It's very difficult to understand until you have experienced practice. That is why they call him the master. One who practices is called as the master of practice. So this master of practice, it's very important that we learn it, both the experience and the wisdom, both the experience and the wisdom. So this is very, very important for us, that we understand both the experience part and also the wisdom part. So going back to the Yoga Sutras, so the first chapter synopsis today will be very interesting, because Patanjali will now explain the goal of yoga practice. The first chapter is, he is giving you the philosophy, and in the second chapter he is giving you the practice. So before he gives you the practice, he tells you, okay, do this. If you cannot do this, then do this. If you cannot do this, then do this. So basically, yoga is for everybody. There is one sutra that really explained to me the goal of this practice. It says, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. Heyam Dukkham Anagatam means, by the practice of yoga, prevent future miseries. Yoga is meant for those who are suffering. I mean, everybody is suffering. So for those who are suffering in this world, yoga is a refuge. Yoga is a means to overcome the suffering. So if you want to overcome the suffering that you experience in this material world, then yoga is a good means. Yoga is a good way to overcome that suffering. It's an organic way of overcoming suffering, to such a point that you prevent any kind of future misery. Well, in one sense that means that you become liberated from this bondage. You become liberated from this cycle of birth and death, so that all future births and deaths are prevented. Now let's go to the first chapter, and here it's explaining very, very beautifully. Patanjali is explaining here what is yoga. Now he begins with a dashing definition of yoga. He says, Atha yoga nushasanam. Atha. Okay. This begins. Okay. Here we go, fellows. Come on, let's go. Okay. He says, okay, Atha yoga anushasanam. Get down to the discipline of yoga. Anushasanam. Shasana means to rule. Now be ruled by who? Whom we should be ruled by. Shasanam. Be ruled by. Be ruled by who? By the scripture. the yoga scripture. Atha yoga anushasanam. The discipline of yoga scripture. The scriptures of the yogic scriptures, they speak about the discipline of yoga. So one should follow the scriptures. At the same time, one should follow the masters of yoga. So both. So one should follow both. So number one should follow the scripture. And second, one should follow the person who is practicing this yoga. So atha yoga anushasanam. So that is the first step. Atha yoga anushasanam. Get down to the discipline of yoga. So life is meant to be disciplined. So Patanjali is explaining yoga is a discipline, means if you do not follow that discipline. So discipline comes from the word disciple. A disciple means one who accepts a discipline. So he's called as a disciple. So this is basically a science that is passed down from the teacher to the student, from the teacher to the student. This yogic wisdom is being passed on. Atha yoga anushasanam. So if you want really freedom, peace from all the suffering, atha yoga anushasanam. So then he explains the goal. Why this discipline? Why this discipline? Yogas chitta vratti nirodha. So he explains yoga chitta vratti nirodha. So what is the goal? Chitta vratti nirodha. To prevent all the disturbing thoughts of the mind. So if I ask how many of you are disturbed by the mind, probably everybody. In fact, everybody is disturbed by the mind. So chitta vratti nirodha. So to purify, to overcome the disturbances of the thoughts in the mind, this is called as chitta vratti nirodha. Atha yoga anushasanam yoga chitta vratti nirodha. So that is the second sutra. So he is explaining to us first what is the discipline. What is yoga? Yoga is a discipline, number one. Second, he is explaining that why is this discipline important in order to overcome the disturbances of the mind. So this is number two. If you do not practice, then what happens to you? What happens to you if you do not practice? Vritti sarupyam itaratra. Then you will be what your mind thinks you are. So basically, in today's world, we can see when you watch TV, they treat you as a consumer. And you become a consumer. Oh, 50% off, 100% off, 25% coupons, this, that. So you really want to become the consumer. Or if there is something, you want to be a consumer or a buyer. So basically, something that overwhelms your mind, we become controlled by it. So today people are controlled by their smartphones because they think, oh, everything comes from here. I need to enjoy this. So whoever and whatever overwhelms your mind, that rules your mind. So he says, if you do not self-realize, if you do not purify the heart, if you do not focus on the Atma, then what happens is basically you become overpowered by the thoughts of your own mind. And whatever is controlling your mind, whatever is overpowering your mind. For example, people think, if I put something on Facebook and if I get so many likes and that is it. If I put something on Facebook, then I get so many likes and then I'm happy. That's how some people live their life. Yeah, you can share something and become friends, but then merely depending your life on that, that is something what you call as developing a particular mentality. So he says, whatever your mind thinks, you become overwhelmed by that. Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. So if you want to see the self, if you want to see the pure soul happy, then you practice yoga. If not, the mind overwhelms you. Whatever is your disturbance of the mind, you become that. Today, diabetes, stress related problems, asthma, these are all very common because the disturbances of the mind, they pervade into the body. The disturbances of the mind, they pervade into the body, and a mental stress, a mental disorder, it becomes a physical disease. If you have a serious physical disease, that means there is a corresponding mental disorder that needs to be purified, that needs to be overcome. So, then he explains that this mind, there are 5 kinds of thoughts. Vrittayaha, Panchatayaha, Klishta Klishtaha. So look at the continuity. He explains that yoga is a discipline. Discipline which is meant to show your real soul, the joyful self. If you do not practice yoga, then you become merely a product of your mental disturbances. Then he explains that there are 5 kinds of these mental disturbances. 5 kinds of mental disturbances. So he says, pramana vikarpa pramana viparya vikalpa nidra smritayaha. Pramana viparya vikalpa nidra smritayaha. So he divides the mental thoughts into 5 categories. The mind has 5 kinds of thoughts. First is called pramana. Pramana means for that which can be proved. So mind accepts some kind of a proof. Pramana. So mind accepts some kind of a proof. Pramana. Vikalpa. So in this world, when you look at things, if whatever you see, pramana, there is a tree, I can see. Somebody tells me there is a tree, I go there, I see a tree. So there is proof that the tree is there. So pramana means that which, that which exists, that which can be proven. Vikalpa means that which is simply an illusion. Kalpana means simply thinking about it, which doesn't exist. I want to live in a candy world. So this is the second one. And most of us are in that kind of daydreaming. I want to live in a candy world. The third type of thought process is called as nidra. Nidra, of course, all of us know, sleep. But a sleep can be something that forms a strong mental strength. A good dreamless sleep can give you a very strong mental ability. A disturbed sleep can make you worse than what you are going forward. So a good sleep is a sign of good health. A bad sleep, a disturbed sleep, is a sign of bad mental health. If you're having a lot of bad dreams, if you're having a lot of disturbances, And that's a very bad sign. Nidra, smratayaha. So smratayaha means memory. Somebody steals your car. Somebody rips you off your house. Somebody cheats you for your house. Now these kind of people in this world, when they treat you badly, somebody burns you, somebody gives you a lot of pain. So you can see such kind of people stay in your memory for some those who give you a lot of pain. They stay in your memory for some time until you overcome that pain. Those who give you happiness, those who are your well-wishers, they stay in your memory forever, for a long, long time, because you are grateful in your heart. And such good impressions of people who have done good to you. So there are good memories, there are bad memories, and there are simply memories. Oh, this happened, whereas you got nothing to do with that. So, not letting an object go from your experience, from your mental experience, so that is called memory. So these are the 5 kinds of thoughts he broadly classifies it as. So those thoughts which have proof, those thoughts which are mere illusion, then he says, there is viparyaya and vikalpa. Pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa. Viparyaya is false knowledge, vikalpa is imagination. So there are 2 kinds of false thoughts. Pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, nidra, smrataya. So pramana is that which has proof. Viparyaya is that is false knowledge, that which is not the truth. Vikalpa means that which is simply imagination. Nidra is dreamless sleep, and smratayaha is memory. So, proper knowledge, false knowledge, imagination, sleep, memory. So, these are the 5 main kinds of thought. Then he says, what are the different means to overcome this thought process? Very beautiful. So this is explained in the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras as well. So in the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras, Krishna also explains Abhyasa Vairagya Bhyamtan Nirodha. Abhyasa and Vairagya. So by Abhyasa and by Vairagya, one can overcome these mental, material thoughts. It's a very beautiful word given by Srila Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita. He explains mental, material thought process. What do you mean by mental, material thought process? So there are 2 types of thoughts in Grand Club. Although we saw 5 types of thoughts just now, these are all material. There is another classification of thought. So that is spiritual. So that is spiritual thought process. So when one overcomes mental material thought process, one thinks of something higher, and that we will see later on in this chapter. So after explaining that these are the types of thoughts that disturb you, that are in your mind, so how can you overcome them? So then he explains Abhyasa Vairagya Abhyam. So Abhyasa means what? Regulated efforts means practicing regularly. Oh, today it's cold, I'm not going to practice. Yoga is 99% practice, 1% philosophy. The most important thing you need to control in yoga is your tongue. What you eat and what you speak. Without the basis of proper yoga, one cannot achieve success in anything. The basis of yoga, the strength, without which there is karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, bhakti yoga. All these different practices are there. But without discipline. So this Ashtanga, it talks about the discipline. So even if you become a bhakti yogi, even if you become a karma yogi, jnana yogi, dhyana yogi, you need discipline. Without this discipline, don't expect to achieve anything. Then you will, after many, many years, you will remain the same, a false practitioner. And Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, a false practitioner, one who is simply showing on the outside, whereas there is no substance in the inside, there is no strength within, there is no basis. If one does not have a strong foundation, strong discipline of yoga, no matter what he does, it is simply not going to give you a perfect result. So therefore, discipline is very important. Practice is very, very important. Spread your mat, practice every day. In the Vedanta Sutras, this is the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. In the Vedanta Sutras, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati points out one verse. He says that anavritti shabdat, that one can overcome all the disturbances of the mind by sound, by meditation on sound. So this meditation on sound, so every day one should practice his meditation. Or today I'm feeling okay. No. Practice means every day, no matter how you feel, you have to practice. Every day, same time, same place, practice. Practice makes a man perfect. So he says, regulated efforts, that is practice. What is Vairagya? So Vairagya means detachment. Not to go after the objects of the senses. When you hear something, when you see something, hey, there is a new movie in town. Boom. My mind is immediately attracted. I have to watch it. So in order that we do not merely get pulled onto, so first I need to analyze, is it beneficial for my spiritual life? Is it going to calm me down? Do I have the time for it? Is it essential? But for that, one needs to come to the mode of goodness. One needs to come to a calm state of mind in order to get that analytical ability. So therefore, one needs to be detached. For some time, one needs to say, stop. For some time, I need to just focus on my yoga. I need to give up everything. I'm not in a position to decide whether going to that party is good for me, drinking this is good for me, going, no. Just stop for some time. Just let me just practice. Let me just come to that decision-making ability. Let me just come to that decision-making. Let me just come to that point of strength. So you simply practice. So he says, these kind of mental problems are there. The problems of the mind, the problems of different types of thought processes are there. They can be overcome by regulated practice and detachment. And how should be your practice? Your practice should be with complete knowledge. And be ready to practice for a long time. I can get short-term results by small practices, but I want long-term results. Then practice. Then be ready to practice. Be ready to practice, and practice. So there are short-term results and there are long-term results. So we should go for the long-term results. So long-term results are more important. Then he says something very special. He directly hits the spiritual dimension. He says, Patanjali says that when you practice yoga and when you become detached, when you practice yoga and you become detached from material attachments, then one realizes something higher. And what is that? He says, Tat param purusha khyate guna vaitrishnam. So he says, one realizes the Purusha who is beyond the gunas. So he is actually speaking about the soul. He says, we are all the soul. So when we are situated in our practice and we become detached from all these mental material thoughts, their disturbances, their attractions, their repulsions, we become neutral to the mind and we completely reflect on the inner self. What we see, tat param purusha khyate hai gunavaitrishnam. So then one sees the purusha, then one sees the self who is blissful. So when you come to the point when you become neutral to your mind, when you have overcome the disturbances of the mind, when you are not attracted to the merely outbursts of the mind, when you overcome attraction, repulsion, pulls, anger, all these things, when you become neutral, it's not that the mind will not do these things. The mind will continuously, from one state to the other, it will keep on jumping. It will not stay stable. It's like a monkey, it keeps on jumping. But when by your practice and detachment, you become neutral to it, you see, after some time, you see the monkey, hey, I got nothing to do with you. You become neutral to your mind. So then, in a calm state, you are able to reflect on the inner self. And that, he says, is glorious. So then he explains that as you go deeper, you can, and as you focus deep within you, as you go deeper, you are able to gradually realize the self. Then he says how to begin the practice. Now, like I was explaining, he says, Virama pratyaya abhyasa purva samskara shesho anyaha. Those who have, for example, I have an addiction. I saw there was a documentary in South Korea. Young men are getting attracted too much to video games, online, internet games, and their fingers are like this all the time. They cannot sit in one place. All they have to do is they cannot sit quiet. So there are camps where these young people are taken to. There are camps where these young people are taken to, and and the smartphones are taken away. And then okay, now relax, meditate, do some other activity, paint. They're given like kids paint brushes. Okay, paint. Okay, clean. Wash your clothes. Do something. So getting the mind engaged in other activities so that, because we know you cannot get rid of old habits until you develop new habits. So to get rid of those old habits, one has to come to a point where this addiction, you need to cut it down. I know a friend who was hospitalized in my college. He was addicted to drinking. To such a point, he was seriously ill in the hospital and he was about to die because of the liver problem. And somehow they had kept him away from alcohol. Now, a neighbor, a person on the a fellow friend on a neighboring bed, he got a bottle of alcohol, and somehow he poked this friend, hey, I got alcohol. So he could not hold himself, and he took alcohol, he drank, and he died. Somehow, if he had been isolated from this alcohol, he could have been saved. Similarly, all of us are merely attacked. All of us are merely attacked by different types of thoughts, and we need relief. So to get relief, first we have to isolate ourselves from that circumstances, from that situation. So he says, even the devatas, even the angels, the higher beings, even they practice yoga, not just humans. So even they take a break. So if you want real benefits, then completely focus on this until you at least get a start. So for a start, everybody gives up everything. So if you want to develop a new habit, you have to give it its complete space. You have to let it develop. Just like when you put a seed in a small pot, you let it grow a little bit and then you transfer it to a bigger pot. But that seed and the germination, that's a very delicate process. So, first, to get a good benefit out of yoga, to practice, give up everything else and simply focus on it. So, he says, even the devatas, even they are unable to get the complete benefit without giving up their position and situation for the time being. So, even if you are a millionaire, you have to give up some comforts for some time and focus. You cannot just sit with all the comfort and live that, and no, you have to really overcome the mind. You have to give the mind, you have to come to that proper situation, like a yogi goes to a riverside, nature site, a proper place for meditation, or a room where everything is completely designed, a simple place just for meditation. There is no attraction. So he says that Shraddha Virya, that one should have faith in the practice of yoga, one should put in complete energy into it, and with complete memory. One should have a memory of all the suffering. Once you get a little relief, like Srila Prabhupada says, or one who translated the largest selling edition of the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada, he says that when people, it's like animals, when they get a little fatty, they are ready to enjoy. When they fight with each other and they get tired, they want rest. Moment they get a little energy, go and enjoy. So, but animals do not have that much knowledge that they are actually suffering, but humans can understand that they are actually suffering. So, one who wants real freedom from disease, from disturbances, from attractions, from delusion, to get good sleep, good health, good mind, a strong, happy life, a life leading to higher superpowers, a life leading to liberation, then one should practice with strong memory, either his own memory or others' memory. How much, if you do not practice yoga, how much the mind overwhelms you. Then he says intensity is the key. So when you practice yoga, practice with complete intensity. So one who is intense, he gets the best results. So let's go back to the beginning and let's come back here. So yoga is a discipline, is a higher discipline. It is meant to experience the inner self, the soul, the joyous self, the happiness. If you do not practice, your mind overwhelms you. Then you become a product of what your thought is. And he explains the different kinds of thoughts, the 5 different kinds of thoughts, and one can overcome these thoughts by practice and detachment. Practice, one should learn the practice properly from a guru. And in order to practice, one should give up everything else for a time being. A yoga means a dedicated practice, a focused practice. And after giving up, he should completely focus and develop a strong habit, a powerful habit with great intensity. And then he says, if one wants to achieve perfection in yoga, This is my favorite verse. He says, Ishvara pranidhanatva. Then one should surrender unto the Lord. One should surrender unto the controller. One should surrender. So even Patanjali is talking about bhakti. He says, if you want perfection in yoga, then simply surrender. Then simply surrender. So the highest meditation is actually to surrender. And he explains what is the quality of that Lord. He says, Klesha karma vipakashaihi aparamrishtaha purusha visheshaha ishvaraha. He says, whom to surrender? Who is that Lord? In one who the karma doesn't fructify. We do some karma, you slap somebody, he slaps back at you. But the Lord is somebody who can do everything. He controls all the trees, all the fruits, all the rain, everything comes from him. But he, although he's the cause of everything, he's not affected by any karma. He is beyond this material nature. He is spiritual in nature. Purusha Vishesha, he is that special person. So we are all persons according to yoga. We are all personalities. Purusha Vishesha. So he is the special person. Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha. He is the seed of everything. He is the spiritual master of everything. He is the one, the oldest, the controller, the supreme. I mean, what more do you want? He explains that the supreme is one to one whom you should surrender. He is the controller. He is the ancient person. He is everybody's teacher. He is in everybody's heart. He is in everybody's heart. The Supreme Lord Vishnu is in everybody's heart according to the Yoga Sutras, and reaching him is the goal of yoga. So when your mind is completely liberated, you actually meditate on him. Then he says, what is his name? Oh, that is his name. So Patanjali says his name is Om. So chant. So that is why Omkara, which is also the same name as Krishna, because Om and Krishna are non-different. Omkara is already there in the name Krishna. So Om is called as Pranava. Omkara. So in yoga practice, Om, because this represents the universal truth, the powerful, all-pervading feature of the Lord, where the Lord is everywhere, where the Lord is in everybody's heart, you can experience the all-loving feature of the Lord by chanting this Om. So he says, one should purify himself by the practice of yoga, and one should practice the Om meditation. And how should one chant? Tat japaha tadartha bhavanatham. So one should chant for his pleasure. So one should chant for the pleasure of the Lord. Tata pratyakshetana adhyakama antaraya abhavascha. So he says that by chanting Om, one gets purified and one gets attracted to the higher truth. One gets attracted to the higher truth. So if you want to achieve real success in yoga, control your diet, practice the yoga, and chant the Omkara mantra. And after taking you to the highest point, that is to chant Om and to meditate on the Supreme Lord, then Patanjali comes to what are the obstacles you will experience in the practice of yoga. He says, what are the practicals? Disease, doubt, inertia, carelessness, strong material attachments, not being fixed in one practice, they disturb the practice. Pain, death of a loved one, or some physical pain, being in a bad mood, being diseased, Now it's seasonal, it's cold seasons, everybody's getting cough. Hmm? So I have a little bit of. So all these things can actually affect your yoga practice. So he says, Tat pratishedartham eka tattva abhyasaha. So to prevent all these obstacles from overwhelming you, practice, practice, practice. Do not give up. With great enthusiasm, practice. Every day, practice. Do not give up. Simply practice. So he's saying, practice, 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 practice. There is no way out except practice. Then he says, at the same time that you are practicing, keep good relationships. This is very important. He says, Maitri Karuna Mudeta Upekshanam Sukha Dukkha Punya Punya Vishayanam Bhavanatah Chitta Prasadanam. Maitri, become friends with spiritually exalted people. Whom should you make friends with? Spiritually exalted people. Karuna, those who are suffering, be compassionate, develop a heart of compassion. Mudita, those who are good people, pious people, rich people, good people in society, develop good relation, people in power and position. Keep good relation. You never know when they can harm you or when they can benefit you. Keep good relation even though you cannot be friends. Punya punya. Bhavanatah chitta prasadam. By keeping good relationships always. Don't make enmity with anybody. You never know. Even the most foolish person can do you the greatest harm. Even the most mentally disturbed person can cause you the greatest harm. Never ignore or make enemy with anybody thinking he's weak. No, that is the biggest danger to yoga. When you're in a forest, there will be a snake. So that is why yogi has to wear a deer skin. It's not just saying wear a deer skin, because deer skin repulses snakes. It's not just to wear a deer skin, but it has a purpose. So the greatest enemy when you be in a forest is actually these poisonous snakes. So never make anybody your enemy. Treat everybody either neutral or friendship, or compassion, but don't go to enmity. So relationship is very, very important. Furthermore, enmity or keeping grudge fight, it disturbs you more than the other person, because the other person, whoever he is, they are what they are. But by taking that quality within you, by thinking about them, you become that way. So it's very important to cultivate good relationships, because you never know who can help you or you never know who can harm you. Prachardana vidaranabhyam va pranasya. So cultivate good relationships. And he says, keep good practice and breathe well. A measure of your relaxed mind can be ease your breathing. A good mind means good breathing. And he says, always keep transcendence in your focus. Then he explains different ways of relaxing the mind. Meditate on a peaceful light, sleep well. Then meditate on something that gives you some relaxation. And finally, he ends with relax the mind, focus on meditation. Relax the mind, focus on meditation. So gradually he's explaining that once the mind, by practice, by relationships, once the mind cools down, then this mind can be focused on a higher objective, on a higher object. On a higher object. And this higher object is the self, the soul. There will be a lot of disturbances when we practice yoga. Disturbances by our own mind, disturbances by our memories, disturbances by enemies, disturbances by some karma, disturbances by other living entities. But one needs to tolerate them. One needs to tolerate them. One needs to keep one's quality of practice high. At the same time, whatever karma comes to you, even though you try to isolate yourself from it, just tolerate, just let the storm pass. If you tolerate and you focus on the higher self, you get the higher self. When the storm comes, you don't tolerate, you keep fighting it, you lose the focus on the self. There are enough people in this world who just want to disturb others. Don't get involved. Just focus on the self. Keep focusing on the self. So, one should practice yoga to get relief from all material suffering, from any suffering. Or even if not relief from suffering, even if you think you have everything, yet you can achieve a higher level of happiness by focusing on the self, by focusing on the soul. And that comes with discipline. This discipline is to overcome the turnings of the mind, which are of 5 types: real knowledge, false knowledge, imagination, dream, and finally, disturbing unnecessary thoughts. So if one wants to overcome all the different types of thoughts, then one should practice one-pointed ekatattva abhyasaha. One should overcome disease, one should overcome disturbances by one-pointed practice, by one-pointed regulated practice every day. No excuse for not practicing. And what one should achieve in this practice is a higher taste. By meditation, by higher sound. When you practice yoga, your body goes into a different state of relaxed happiness. That is one level you feel. Then when you meditate, your mind goes into a different level of relaxed happiness. And then you achieve a higher intellectual status. And finally, one achieves by meditation of the Supreme the highest goal of yoga, that is union with the Supreme. Union with the Supreme. That is the real state of yoga. And he says that that this person, this Supreme, is in your heart. He is the supreme controller. He is the one who gives the supreme happiness to everyone. And by chanting Om, one connects with him, and that connection is real yoga. Keep good relations with everyone in this world. Be neutral to this world. Be neutral to your mind and focus on the self. Hare Krishna. So I will stop here. And whatever questions are there, I don't know. And whatever is there, I will make a separate session for this. And day after tomorrow, we'll do the chapter 2, the practice of Ashtanga Yoga. So thank you all for joining in today. And I welcome any questions, feedback, or anything. Please write it in the comments. And I'll make a separate video and try to answer those questions. And then we'll go into the practice of the Ashtanga. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.